Go through the agenda. Since we don't have a quorum, we'll go through the agenda and cover all the items without taking votes. So first I'll call to order. Harry Ford, Deputy County Executive.
Alan Sorensen, MPO Director, Commissioner of Planning for Orange County.
Our new Deputy Commissioner.
Stacy Butler, Deputy Commissioner of Planning for Orange County.
Hey, Mike Sweeten, Town of Warwick Supervisor.
Charlie Carnes, Town of Crawford Supervisor.
Rachel?
Rachel Carr, Orange County Tourism.
Lauren?
Lauren Bennett, Orange County Planning.
Mr. Tewell?
Jacob DeWiel, City of Middletown. Morning.
Over Reduce, Orange County Planning.
Jessica Ridgway, Orange County Planning. Raina Tawil, OCTC staff.
Okay, and who do we have online?
We have a lot of people online, so bear with me. So we have Paul Sharman, who is with the Transpo Group, and he's our consultant for the coordinated plan update. Travis Ewald, Orange County DPW. We have Chris Tights, also from the Transpo Group. David Gilmore. David, I always forget where you're from. Can you just write it in the chat, please? If you have access. Heidi Genham is also from Transpo. Jay Sheffield is from Port Authority of New York, New Jersey. Jason Morris is City of Newburgh. John Ravella, Village of Walden. Laura Ripley is New York State Thruway Authority. Olson, I'm sorry. Can you write your name in the chat and the agency?
Okay,
And then Marianne Marichal. And who are you with, Marianne? Are you gonna also,
The City of Newburgh, Transportation.
oh, thank you. Martin Hull, WSP, Michael Weeks. Michael, are you with Creighton Manning,
McGilly Hauser.
McGoley Hauser?
City of Port Jervis and Town of New Windsor.
Thank you, Michael. Owen Winter, and you're with Orange County. Owen, am I correct?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Thank you. Bob Mannix with the New York State Department of Transportation, Region 8. Scott Manley with the Town of Newburgh, and Dave Lake with the Mid-Hudson South TCC. Is there anyone I forgot online?
is there anybody from New York DOT?
Yeah, Bob Mannix.
Oh, Bob.
I think David Gilmore may have been muted. He was talking. His name popped up.
Yes. David Gilmore.
And then Christine Smallin just joined, and she's from the Orange County Department of Mental Health.
Okay, great. All right, there's an opportunity right now for public comment, so we'll open that up. Does anyone have anything to contribute today?
We did receive a public comment from Bert Vielander. So if no one's on the line wants to give a comment, we can just read it into the record.
Okay, read it into the record.
Okay, so this was submitted by Bert Thielander, and it states, Alan Sorensen, Planning Commissioner, recently informed the public about a proposal for the Bikeway Vision to be presented at the July 11th, 2023 OCTC meeting. I'm away on vacation next week, and on behalf of the Pathways Committee, wish to strongly support this initiative. Our understanding is the vision will propose to provide non-motorized transportation options throughout Orange County, with the Heritage Trail connecting several transportation options to Harriman Train Station, to Otisville, Westbrookville, to Unionville, from Goshen to Walden to Salisbury Mills. The benefit includes community health, promoting recreation and tourism, and providing non-motorized transportation options that will reduce the public use of fossil fuels to reduce the global warming climate change challenges we are confronting. The Pathways Committee has recently engaged federal, state, county elected officials to seek funding for trail development initiatives. We will continue our effort to collaborate with OCTC to provide financial support to supplement other efforts to support the Bikeway Vision. Thank you for considering our public comment.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to comment today? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to number 3, accepting the meeting transcript, but there's no quorum, so we won't vote on it. So we'll move next to Transportation Improvement Program. Again, no vote will be taken today.
I think we do have quorum online and in the room.
So can I then ask for an acceptance of the meeting transcript? Motion.
So moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Accepted. Okay. Will we be voting on the tip changes?
No.
No. Okay. Lauren, Transportation Improvement Program.
Yes, thank you, Harry. So we have two actions we'll be reviewing today. The first is administrative modification, OCTC 23D. This includes 3 projects, all transit related. The first is PIN 8T0006 or 006, excuse me. And this includes the purchase of 5 30-foot transit buses for fixed route transit services in the village of Curious Joel. The PIN is being spun out of the FTA 5339 block PIN, which is ATRO 81. So it's using 2.648 million in FTA 5339 funding with a local and state match of each 331,000. So the next action item is PIN ATRO 81, which is that block PIN. So we're reducing that pre-fiscal year 2023 total to offset this new PIN, which is the ATO 006. So this pre-FY funding comes from FTA allocations in 2020 and 2021, which do need to be spent down. So that's why it's seen in pre-2023 column. And the last action is PIN ATRO 91, which is adding the MEP block funding, which is the Modernization and Enhancement Program, onto the TIP for informational purchases. MEP funding is 100% state funding, which is why it's an amendment, an administrative modification instead of an amendment. And I'll throw it to Alan, he had a comment on that last action.
Yeah, just to clarify the intended use of those MEPS funds, county's in the process now of exploring the construction of a new building, the Erie Street building. And we can use the Modernization Enhancement Program funding towards this new multimodal transit facility. And so that's one of the reasons also for this action.
Okay, we'll open up any questions or comments from anyone on screen or otherwise.
How much money was in the block? The 53?
That's all informational because it's based on FTA allocations. So it's not a 1-for-1 like there is on the highway side for transit. So we estimate for each year, and then I think it goes up 2% each year. But then that's backfilled with when we actually receive that grant funding allocation, not grant, but the FTA allocations, those kind of go in within the fiscal year.
And this would be for 5 buses?
Yes,
What size bus are they?
they are for fixed route transit.
30 foot.
So I believe they're 30 foot, yes.
Fine.
Yeah, Amy?
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, yeah.
This is the FTA grant season, so you'll see a lot of actions. A lot of this is to get the TIP in line with some of the actions that the Transit Orange team is putting in for FTA grants.
Okay,
So that's why there's so many transit actions.
any comments? Anyone here or on the ether? Okay, then there's no vote today, but we'll move on to the next item.
That actually action we coordinate with the project sponsor, so that needs no further action. It's been approved by the project sponsor. That's for informational purposes.
Just to comment a little bit on what Alan was saying, we are thinking about building a new office building here on this campus, and where the soil bearing borings are going to be done the next day or two. And we'll find out where we're going to locate it. We're trying to locate it. We'd like to do it back by the old jail, but that's that ground, I'm told, from former county legislative chairman Seidman, that he once saw a bulldozer half deep in the mud there. So we're also looking at the corner over here of Erie and Maine and seeing how it works. But you'll hear more about that as weeks go by.
And the building would be used for what?
Well, the 1887 building, which is which was the government for 100 years,
Right.
is just not adequate for planning and health. So we move planning and health to the new building, but we're also looking at other departments as well. And maybe it might even become like more of a human services type module, if you will. We have a lot of offices that we right now rent on Matthew Street, and we'd like to get out of that and get into our own offices. And then hopefully after we get that accomplished, go back to 1887, renovate that, and make that available for other county offices as well. That's a general broad stroke plan, but you'll be hearing more about it in the coming weeks. Okay, Lauren?
And the next tip item we'll be covering is the draft tip amendment OCTC 2304. There are 3 projects on this. I just do want to note that there were changes made to the tip amendment as of yesterday. So what we'll be viewing today is not the same as what went out with the meeting materials. So we'll cover each of those projects more in depth. So the first project is PIN ATRO 94, and that is the purchase of 2 ADA buses for ADA paratransit services in Orange County. And this is adding a new project on the tip. It will be using FTA 5307 funding. I think it says 5707 funding, that's a mistake in the slides. With a local and state match of $208,000. It's adding 208,000 of F5307 funding, and the local match is 26,000 for the state and local matches. The next project is PIN 8TRO 96, which is the purchase of 17 dial-a-ride buses for demand response services in Orange County. This is increasing FTA 5307 funding by just over $500,000 with a local and state match of around 66,000 each. And then we also changed the project description from 18 buses to 17 buses to match the grant that the Transit Orange team will be putting in.
And that's for towns of Monroe, Wallkill, Warwick, Highlands, Newburgh.
Yes,
Anybody else?
I believe it's just the urban areas for this PIN because 5307 is urbanized funding for transit. And then the last PIN is PIN ATRO 98, which is the purchase of 13 fixed route transit buses for the fixed route service. Those buses are 30 feet and 35 feet. And we will be increasing the FTA 5307 funding by just over $3 million with a local and state match also increasing by just over 300,000. So if you look at the tip strip, you'll see that we're also rolling it from 2025 to that fiscal year 2023, which is this year, so it can go in that grant. And we're replacing state funding from the previous, from what it is now. That state funding is going to be transferred to that FTA 5307 funding, which is why it's over that 25% threshold and increase in federal funding.
There'll be handicap accessible buses,
Yes,
and it'll be for the cities of Middletown, Newburgh, and the village of Carious-Joel.
yes, the 3 fixed route service.
The bulk of this, all these buses, the bulk of this, I'm assuming is coming through increased Fed funding from the feds, a good portion of it.
It's all the allocations that come through the different urbanized areas.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of buses coming through. I'm just wondering.
Sure is.
And a lot of money, a lot of buses coming through.
Well, it's not just that, the bus replacement schedule, so
Yeah.
they have a useful life of 12 years.
Okay.
And so we're kind of rolling into that. One thing you may have noticed is that we actually reduced the number of buses from 18 to 17, but we had to put in more money.
Yeah.
And that's because the dollar bus costs have increased significantly over the last few years, and the average cost now is over 130,000 each.
Okay.
I think previously they were like an 85, 90 range, so we're dealing with, repercussions of the inflation. But yeah.
Okay.
But we
So
have,
has Montgomery been in touch here since I see all these buses around? Has Montgomery been in touch? For a replacement bus? Seems to be lots of buses around. Because Montgomery is a joint deal with us.
oh, they are, okay.
Yeah, it's Montgomery Crawford dial bus.
Well, if they haven't reached out, they need to.
Well, they're kind of in transition over there with supervisors. and I'll reach out to them.
Okay.
And is there any requirement that they be electric buses? No, okay. Because then it would be double the cost, right? Yeah.
Yeah, or triple. I think, was it Dutchess County just purchased a few,
Ulster.
all,
Yeah,
excuse me,
for the
cut
Howard
raise.
bus.
Yeah,
Like two buses were like.
They're at
Million.
half a million.
Yeah.
They were $500,000 each as opposed to 130.
For electric bus?
But then they have to build a garage and store them as well. So.
And hope it doesn't catch fire.
right. Okay, is there any comment on either of these items?
I think, sorry, just wanted to double check on 8TRO 96. I think Lauren mentioned something about a $66,000 match, but on the handout, it looks like 225.
That was probably the increase, the total increase. But thank you for pointing that out.
Okay, we will,
I'll just add, sorry, this action will go out for 14 days of public comment, and we are asking the council to consider action at the next policy board meeting in August.
all right. And is there any other comments or questions for Lauren? And that'll appear on the agenda. Local project sponsored updates, anybody?
Traffic operations in Middletown, it's moving full speed ahead and we're making real progress. And we started using that stamped, red colored asphalt there, which is really very nice. If somebody's driving through East Main Street in Middletown, you'll see it. It's very nice, it stands out. And it's kind of a traffic calming device as well in there to be sure drivers will have some visual.
What part of East Main?
East Main from Toro College all the way into the city now.
Oh, okay.
We're moving all throughout, all the pedestrian crossings, they're gonna be stamped.
I go to your bakery all the time, so I'll look for it there.
Yes, absolutely.
It does look nice.
You're so
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
All right, any other local project sponsor updates?
I'm just waiting for LPU to give me the go-ahead to go out to bid on the bike height project.
great.
It's sitting with them, so.
Okay.
And then I think the agreement with the county attorney's office, between the county and the town.
Right, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I haven't heard back from her, but
Anyone else? Anyone else on the line?
Harry, this is Travis. Otisville Viaduct. We started construction on that. Our contractor is going to be constructing the bypass road starting next week. And we're anticipating that bridge will be closed and the detour enacted towards the end of the month. They'll start demolition probably last week in July.
Great, great. Anything else, Travis?
That's all for me for right now.
Anybody else with an update on a local project? Okay, then we'll move on to old business. Anything more? Anybody, old business? Rachel, anything on old business? Just want to see, make sure you're awake over there. Okay, we'll go on to new business, coordinated public transit, human services, transportation plan.
Okay. I'll, it's kind of repetitive but for the people who are online, I thought I'd just do a little quick
It's for the
explanation.
transcript too, so it'll be forever.
Okay, so the Coordinated Public Transit Human Services Transportation Plan, which we refer to as the Coordinated Plan, aims to identify the transportation needs of individuals with disabilities, older adults, and low-income people, provide strategies for meeting those needs, and prioritize transportation services for funding and implementation. We're in the process of updating our coordinated plan. It's important to note that the plan is a prerequisite for FDA Section 5310 program, which assists in transportation funding to assist the elderly and individuals with disabilities. I'm going to turn this over to Paul Sharman, who's the Senior Project Manager with the Transpo Group, and they are the consultant team that is assisting us with this, the development of our new coordinated plan. Paul?
All right, thanks, Alan. I will share my screen here. Let me know if everyone can see this okay.
You can see it.
Great. So yeah, thanks for the update there, Alan. So yeah, I'm Paul Sharman. I'm the project manager for the the update of the Coordinated Public Transit Human Service Transportation Plan, a little bit of a mouthful, but nice background there from Alan. I'll get into a little bit more detail about this project. So today I'm just going to be talking kind of about the project overview, what we've been working on, kind of the outcomes of the draft plan. The plan is going to be made available today, so we'll talk a little bit about that. And yeah, so if anybody has questions, please interrupt me at any time. I'll try to keep my eye on the room here, but there's a chance I may not see anything. So please jump in and interrupt me at any time. All right. So just quickly what I'm going to cover today, talk a little bit about what the coordinated plan is, the planning process that we follow to update these plans, project schedule that we've been working under. We'll talk a little bit about the outreach that was done as part of this plan update. That's a really important piece of these plans. And then talk kind of some specifics about some of the work that was done regarding the existing conditions, the services that are offered, the demographic analysis that we did, identifying the needs and gaps that are specific to Orange County, and some of the strategies that we're recommending to help address those needs and gaps. So human service transportation planning, or coordinated planning, as Alan mentioned, is really transportation planning that is focused on folks who are maybe left out of traditional transportation planning work. So it's a focus on older adults, people with disabilities, people with low incomes, ensuring that services are provided to help those people kind of meet their daily transportation needs, help them get around, get to medical appointments, kind of live their day-to-day lives. This is a federal requirement for Section 5310 funding, which is, again, funding that is directed towards services that provide transportation options for seniors and those with mobility challenges. This plan is what we're calling the 2023 update. Orange County already has an existing plan that was created in 2018. A lot of great work went into that plan. And so we're just updating this plan kind of to be reflective of what has changed both in Orange County and kind of in the world since 2018. Went through a pandemic, it changed the way a lot of people travel. So we want this new plan to be reflective of the way people move around today and the needs that people have today. And then really kind of one of the major outcomes of these plans is really to encourage coordination among stakeholders. So those who were involved in providing these services, kind of getting everyone together and making sure that that we're maximizing these limited resources, be it buses or people's time or federal dollars, through coordination among stakeholders. So that's kind of the big goal of this plan. So the planning process, this is kind of the process that we undertake when we put these human service or coordinated plans together. Starts off kind of in the data collection and analysis phase. We review in depth updated demographic information for Orange County. I'll show some maps and charts later, but looking at where there's a high concentration of seniors living, where there are kind of low income areas, where are there likely kind of higher mobility needs, and then pairing that with a really exhaustive list of the current human service transportation inventory. So all the folks that are providing transportation options in Orange County, where do their services run, when do they run, who's eligible for those services. So that's kind of the 30,000 foot view of the kind of the mobility needs and options within Orange County. And then we pair that with the second phase, which is the public information and outreach. So for this project, that included what we call an online open house, which is essentially a freestanding website that explains this planning process, that include the link to a public survey. We had a stakeholder meeting where we invited folks in to comment on the work that we've been doing. And so we pair those two things together, kind of the 30,000 foot view of the county at the data level, and pair that with the kind of boots on the ground perspective of someone who's taken the survey or people who provide services. What are they seeing kind of day to day? What needs do they have? We really combine those two things together to form a needs and gaps assessment. So we document all the existing needs that come through that data analysis. and then identify the gaps between the services that are currently available and what the needs are. And then the fourth step resulting out of that is to come up with some strategies to help kind of to meet those needs or help kind of reduce the gaps between services and needs. And this is largely an update of the 2018 plan. So we have tweaked and updated the strategies that were put together in the 2018 plan, noting that a lot of those strategies are still relevant, but they've been kind of tweaked and updated based on the new data that we have available to us now. Any questions on that? Great. Okay. So overall, sorry.
Are you going to be talking about the differences from 2018 to now?
A little bit. We do highlight that in the plan. This presentation doesn't go into a whole lot of detail about the very specific differences between 2018 and 2023, but
Okay.
I'm happy to chat about that if you want, but that's not a main focus of the
Go
plan
on.
here. Okay. So again, yeah, here's our just kind of overview of the project timeline. Got started, well, tried to get started in March, it ended up being a little closer to April. So a pretty compressed timeline to get all this work done. But here we are early July with the draft plan will be made available to the county in a matter of hours. We're just putting the final tweaks on it right now, and then it'll be available for comment. Make sure that we're getting everybody's feedback in there. And then we will, so got the review period, and then we'll update the final plan and make it available. And actually this is slightly out of date because we're shooting to have this plan available and recommended for adoption at your August meeting. So a little sooner than what's shown on here. So in terms of the public outreach that was done for this project, I mentioned earlier, we called an online open house, basically a freestanding website that was launched in May. So we gathered a public survey that was available on the website. We also made it available in print, both in English and Spanish, to help kind of gather feedback from everyone we could. Tried to make it accessible to everybody. We had 35 responses, which is, I'm told, a decent survey response for some transportation planning work. The survey responses vary wildly when we do this across the country. So I think it's a fairly good response. We did get some really great feedback from folks, which I'll touch on a little bit in a minute here. And so kind of the highlights of the outreach are presented in the plan, and then the appendix really has the detailed kind of exhaustive list of all the information that we got, the breakdown of all the different questions that we asked. There's really some interesting nuggets in there. And then we also had a stakeholder meeting a couple weeks ago where we invited stakeholders in to kind of share their thoughts on our strategies that we had come up with and helped us kind of shape that portion of the plan, kind of the major outcomes. So quickly touch on some sample survey results. So here's just one of the questions that noted survey respondents' reasons for not using publicly available transportation in Orange County, with the 77% of survey respondents saying that service does not go where they need it to go. So that was kind of far and away the biggest thing that we heard. I just can't get where I need to go given the existing services. Followed closely by service not being offered when I need it to go. Or when I need, so maybe that's early in the morning or later in the evening. We heard through a lot of this outreach that folks are often able to get kind of one way. I can get to my destination by the time I go and do my shopping or have my doctor's appointment, and I need to turn around and come home. The service is no longer running, and I have to rely on a taxi, and that makes trips very expensive because taxi is obviously much more expensive than taking a bus. So some interesting things to glean here that helped really shape our strategies that came out of this plan. And then again, talked a little bit about the demographic analysis earlier. So the map on the left here is showing kind of the geographic breakdown of the percent of households who have someone with a disability living there. And so you'll see that percentage kind of vary widely across the county. Some areas have very few residents with disabilities, and some have a very high concentration. There's a census block group in Middletown, which has close to a third of the population there living in that census block that has a disability. So very kind of different spread throughout the county. And we looked at a large range of these special needs populations: older adults, folks with low incomes, people with disability, youth, veterans, people with limited English proficiency, and low vehicle ownership. And then
You
we
make
take
that-
that. Sorry, go ahead.
Make that age thing 75 plus, because
It's funny. I've done a number of those plans, and I always get that comment, and I get it. My parents are over 65, and they don't need any help getting around. So I get that, but this is kind of the prescribed federal way of doing this. So yeah, I get that.
You should hear some people call that elderly.
Yeah.
We didn't do that.
Right.
Not calling it elderly. Yeah, exactly right. And then we also look at population projections. So on the top there, we're showing kind of 2020 population from the latest census and the 2030 projections. And kind of the one thing to note about this, really, that I'd call attention to is the top end of the bracket is showing the percent of residents who are 70 years and older, and we see those bands getting thicker. So we expect Orange County, like pretty much everywhere else in the country, to see an increase in the percentage of the population that is aging. So we only really expect these services to be more needed as time goes on. All right, and then, so again, combine that with a review of the existing services, showing a map here of the 3 fixed route services that are available in Orange County. But we also take into account, all the different transportation options that are available to folks. So the fixed route paratransit, the municipal dial-a-bus, those are kind of the big ones provided by Transit Orange and some of the other publicly available entities. But we also look at what we call the human service agencies, those that are providing services for a specific demographic. That's access, OC veteran services, Jewish family services, those types of folks. So the plan has a really detailed list of all the different agencies that we reviewed for this plan update. And then we also have, the inter-county and regional services, the commuter services, and then we also look at taxi and transportation network company. That's your Ubers and Lyfts, their availability within the county. People, again, sometimes think it's a little odd that we're looking at taxi services, but those do play a big role in getting people around. I mentioned earlier that a lot of folks noted that they had to use taxi kind of for their return portion of their trip. So those kind of do fill a gap here. And then again, so the needs and gaps assessment comes out of the review of kind of the data and the public outreach, and it helps identify kind of broad needs within the county. So on the right here are the kind of 4 resultant high-level needs that were identified. So the hours of service and the service areas, those kind of came out of the public outreach. I showed that chart earlier that noted survey respondents' kind of top concerns and reasons why they weren't able to use public transportation to get around. So hours of service and service areas. So expanding service geographically or later into the evening. Fortunately, those are kind of 2 of the most expensive options, but we want to make sure that the plan reflects that those needs were identified. And then the third general need that was identified was county and regional connections. So people who want to get across the county, have limited options, or they want to connect to other regional services. We heard from survey respondents that those connections are needed, or we need some improvements in those options. And then the last one, access to information. This was a holdover from the 2018 plan that was really put up at the forefront of kind of one of the needs from the 2018 plan. But Transit Orange has done a lot of great work updating their website, making it more user-friendly. And so interestingly, the outreach showed kind of less of a need. So I guess hats off to you folks for making some updates from the 2018 plan and helping address that need. We do keep it in here because it was noted a couple times throughout the outreach that some folks weren't sure exactly where to go to get information about all these services. There's kind of a lot of disparate service providers, and so it can be hard to understand what services are available to residents. So that is a carryover from the 2018 plan, something we heard again, but I just wanted to note a question earlier about differences from the 2018 plan. That is a difference. So that priority has gone down, but it is still something that we think is worth including in the needs here. So then given those needs, we come up with strategies that we directly tie back to those needs. And so the strategies, as I mentioned earlier, are tweaked from the 2018 plan based on the updated needs and gaps that were identified throughout this. And the goal really here with the strategy update was to make them really actionable. The previous plan had 6 strategies identified that were great, and I think we're carrying over 4 or 5 of them, but we're trying to kind of really increase the actionable quality of them. So for example, this one here is create and facilitate a coordination council. This would be getting a group of members together from some of these different human service transportation providers, from the county, from various organizations to kind of pool resources and talk about how they can work together to deliver services to those who need it. And we've developed a set of performance measures and performance targets for the idea that they would meet every quarter, and we have a list of questions they should ask themselves at the meeting to really help them kind of have the tools they need to succeed, so that they have specific actions instead of getting together and not being sure what they should do. So that was kind of the goals with the strategy update for this plan, is to make them really actionable and have measures of success that they could look back and reflect on and kind of check the box and make sure that they're doing what they need to do to help close these gaps.
Who would be responsible for that coordination council, establishing it and putting it in place?
Yeah, it would be the county would be responsible. Pointing at Lauren there, yeah. That would be their kind of goal to set up with the hope that it would probably become self-sustaining, and that members would become more active. And we had some great discussion about this specific council during our stakeholder meeting a couple weeks ago. We had someone volunteer their offices as a place to host these meetings. They have telenetworking set up so we can have hybrid meetings, so people can call in, don't necessarily need to travel in. So yeah, the goal is really that the council itself really drives that, but it would probably be set up and run by the county.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and this actually was set up after the 2018 plan, and had a few meetings up and running, but then COVID kind of squashed it. So this is a kind of a high priority here. So I won't go through all the 6 different strategies that we identify in the plan, but just want to note next steps. So again, the draft plan will be available later today. We're putting the finishing touches on it this morning, and then it'll be out for review for a 2-week period. The county and stakeholders will have a chance to review it, make sure we incorporate their feedback, and that we will make the final plan available on the 1st of August, so that you all have a week to review it before adoption at your next August meeting. I think that's right, isn't it, Lauren? Yeah. So that's my presentation. I'm happy to answer questions if there are any, and we'll make sure that draft plan gets out for everyone's review here end of the day.
Okay, we'll open it up to those present. Anybody have any comments or questions before?
I'm assuming you're going to email
Welcome.
the draft out.
Yes.
Okay.
We'll work.
Somebody will.
Yeah.
Denise Quinn is with us also today.
We did 2 comments on the chat, so I just want to read those. Marianne said, yep, when you don't have service after 7 p.m. on Monday through Friday and on Saturdays and no Sunday service, you have to count on cabs and much more reliable Uber Lyft service. Then Christine Smollen said, Department of Mental Health offered our space for meetings. We have new technology for hybrid meetings in a larger space. So thank you both for.
What's interesting is that in the city of Newburgh, historically, it was 24-hour bus service until about 1963 or 4. And I don't know why, maybe things changed, society changed, whatever, but there was that, full bus service until that time. It has not since.
Isn't that right around when FHW was established in the highway plans?
I'm sure it was related to people getting cars. And
Not to say that they're completely related, that's
Yeah.
funny timing.
Okay, is there anyone from on the line that would like to make a comment or ask a question? Okay, hearing none, I just thank you, Paul, and I'll turn it back to Helen.
Great, thanks, everyone.
Thank
Paul,
you.
thank you. Okay, next up, we have our the Bikeway vision presentation. Before I get into the presentation, I just want to acknowledge a few things. One, specifically want to acknowledge Jessica Ridgway, who's with us, who's worked very closely with me in developing the draft plan.
Yep.
And Ovid Grease, who's worked with the GIS mapping refinements on the project. One thing I'll say is this has been we actually do have a draft plan, which we will circulate to the Orange County Transportation Council members. And I hope to be able to do that in the coming days or weeks. And then I would hope upon your review that this is a plan, a vision that the Transportation Council will consider adopting. And so with that, I'm going to go into the presentation.
Take it away, and congratulations to all of you for the good work. I had a chance to preview it, and it really is a forward-looking document.
All right, thank you. So what I'm going to cover today, we talk a little bit about the history, inception of the idea, the benefits of a county bikeway system, how we propose to establish the network, highlights from the draft plan, and how we anticipate securing funding for the project. I just want to mention before I get into, and we can stay on this slide. As Harry mentioned, this is a very aspirational plan, but I believe, I would say in the same context, a very achievable plan. That map that is on the screen showing the extensive system of railroads that crisscrossed Orange County, I think, is a picture that's worth 1,000 words. There was probably no county in New York State that had that many separate railroad lines running through it. And during the mid-19th and 20th centuries, the population and economic growth coincided with the development of this extensive network of railroads. Over in the 20th century, we saw the demise of the railroads, the rise of highway infrastructure. And so many of these railroads over time were abandoned. We still have the existing passenger rail service on the Port Jervis line. There are several short lines that run throughout the county. But most of the railroads that you see on that historic map have long since been abandoned. And they provide wonderful opportunities to establish rail trails. One of the benefits of developing a bikeway system on the abandoned rail beds is it's that they already have an average grade of 2.2%, which is ideal for biking and walking. And also these railroads, because the communities in Orange County grew up along the railroad lines, these rail beds already connect our existing population centers. whether it's Middletown, Goshen, Washingtonville, Monroe, wherever you go throughout the county, almost all the communities with a significant population density grew up along the railroads. So the inception of the bikeway, there were really several initiatives. The county started to undertake the conversion of abandoned rail trails or abandoned railroad rights of way to rail trails with the development of the Heritage Trail. That now extends 19.5 miles from Monroe to the city of Middletown. There was another effort in the village of Walden that included the towns of Montgomery and the town of Shawangunk in Ulster County to develop the Walden Walkill Rail Trail. That's 3.22 miles. Both of those projects really showed us that by developing these trails along the abandoned railroad rights of way, you can begin to connect communities. And I think one of the critical factors that I think makes the bikeway vision both unique and valuable is its focus on connections. If you think of an interstate highway system, not only is that system effective because of its limited access, but because it allows the user to travel long distances. Communities are connected throughout the entire system. So if you just have the Heritage Trail and you just have the Walden Walkill Rail Trail, you can get around, between smaller geographic areas in the county. But if we're able to grow the system over time and connect the entirety of the county, now you have a active transportation system that I think is unprecedented anywhere in the country. So the benefits of the system. The first is safety. The bikeway provides transportation opportunities that offer a stress-free travel experience and protect the most vulnerable users from the roadway. In recent years, post-COVID, there's been a dramatic increase in the number of fatalities. Those are vehicular bike conflicts, vehicular pedestrian conflicts. If we can provide a safe realm for people to travel that is separated from our highway system, we can do a lot to improve safety. The bikeway benefit also includes mobility. The bikeway provides convenient routes to key destinations throughout the county. It connects populated areas, which will reduce vehicle miles traveled and greenhouse gas emissions. In terms of economic competitiveness, what we're seeing across the country is that communities increasingly invest in bicycle and pedestrian trails as destinations and amenities, not only for residents, but also to attract new employers. Employers know what their employees are looking for in terms of quality of life. And through the development of the bikeway, Orange County can become a leader in creating mixed-use innovation centers that are built along the bikeway. And last, but certainly not least, access and equity, or equity and access. The bikeway provides benefits for safety, health, quality of life for all communities of the county. The bikeway will connect areas of concentrations of racial minorities, ethnic minorities, low-income population, and traverse many of the county's Justice 40 and Environmental Justice 40 areas, ensuring that underserved communities have access to the system and activity centers, employment opportunities, and public parks along the way. I talked a little bit before about mixed-use innovation centers. The example that you see there is from the city of San Pablo, California. It's a mixed-use center. It is actually developed along a river access trail. And part of the reason for that development was its proximity to the trail system. That was one of the things that the developer found attractive. We ran some preliminary numbers. Over 1/3 of the county's population lives within the biking access shed of the bikeway. That's defined as within 3 miles of the bike shed. And somebody could traverse the county stress-free in an interconnected network of split-use trails. And we can go to the next slide. We also see benefits of the bikeway in terms of connecting the county's open space. Concurrently, the department is undertaking an update of the 2004 open space plan. And one thing that is referenced in the open space plan is the need to connect open spaces. We think the bikeway affords a wonderful opportunity to provide connections between the existing protected open space in Orange County to actually create linear parks throughout the county. And we'll see those in the coming slides, how that system will unfold. So what you're seeing there is just the existing highway system and passenger rail system in the context of the open space. But in coming slides, you'll see the bikeway, how that affords an opportunity to connect all those features. The bikeway vision is to establish a separated, non-motorized transportation system throughout Orange County, New York, that provides a realm for the most vulnerable users of our roadways to travel and recreate safely and stress-free, both within communities and over long distances. What you see on this slide is actually the extent of the proposed bikeway system. So the dark green lines on that map are the Heritage Trail. And if you look to the north, that is the Walden Walk-Hill Trail. The other segments that you see in the dashed green line are the proposed extensions to that to create a countywide bikeway system. I would note that from the town of Chester up to town of Cornwall, the county is presently working on the development of a 10-mile Scudamonk Rail Trail, which will be a significant extension of that system. And the county already owns 7.9 miles along the Middletown, New Jersey Railroad right-of-way from Unionville to Slate Hill. So
The Scudamonk one will go up to New Windsor or Cornwall?
it'll actually go up to town of Cornwall, and then just currently terminating at the Moodna Trestle.
Okay,
And
it's very close.
yeah, and it's very close. It's within a few blocks of the Southbury Mills train station.
If you could link it to the city of Newburgh, that's your population center.
And that, we do believe that is feasible. It's going to take a little time. I would note that, some of these segments would be developed utilizing easements. Some of the segments will be developed with the need to acquire property. Other segments, we believe, can be developed with utilizing a rail with trail easement agreement. Has been done in other parts of the country, and that is something that we definitely want to explore. I think, so the bikeway core these are the segments that would be developed first and connect areas with higher density and greater propensity to attract commuter cyclists. We envision the bikeway core in 7 segments. First of which is nearing completion, the Heritage Trail, 19.5 miles. One segment there that we would really, DPW is currently working on segment 3, which is going from City of Middletown, East Main Street out to Ingracia. There's another segment that we think is critical to completing the Heritage Trail, and that's the segment from Monroe to the Harriman train station. That is also a segment that is feasible to connect. It's just going to be a matter of addressing the right-of-way issues there. As I mentioned, Scudamonk Rail Trail, 10 miles. That's an important part of the core. I would envision the Middletown, New Jersey Rail Trail. I have there 12.8 miles, so that would include the 7.9 miles that the county already owns, and hopefully future acquisition of the segment from Slate Hill to the city of Middletown, which is currently inactive. So that
You're doing a
would be-
survey of that now? Okay.
We are currently doing a survey. The RFP is, I'm just waiting to get it out of. The RFP will be issued very soon for a survey of the property from Unionville to Slate Hill. Yeah, the county has set aside funding for that purpose.
Right.
And thank you for that. Then the fourth segment is Salisbury Mills to Storm King Rail Trail. There's an existing abandoned rail bed there. That would be a 3-mile segment. There is actually an underpass under the thruway, believe it or not. Walk through it. So that's a very feasible connection. And then Campbell Hall to Walden rail width trail. That is an example where we think it's feasible to do a rail width trail. There's a US DOT publication, Rails Width Trails. It's owned by, it's a class 2 railroad. There's a similar railroad in Northeast Pennsylvania that has permitted rails with trails. So I think we can use that as a model. And there seems to be, I've walked significant segments of that rail bed, sufficient width there to accommodate that. Then Goshen to Campbell Hall Rail Trail, that would be a combination of things. Believe it or not, right behind us, there is a abandoned rail bed in the woods over there that's owned by the village. So that would be part of it. There's a street that was recently constructed, a residential street, low volume. So that it would have some on-street components. And then there's some additional segments of abandoned rail bed that could be acquired. So that one's a little more involved. You have to stitch pieces together to make that work, but we think it's feasible. And then Storm King to Newburgh Rail Trail, that's another example where I think we would have to have a rail width trail because there's an active rail bed there.
Would that bring you to the Hudson River?
That would, yeah, that would bring you right to the Newburgh waterfront. And then the bikeway network, we envision that there will also be peripheral segments. These include the O&W Rail Trail, Middletown West Brookville Rail Trail. So these segments serve more rural areas of the county with a lower propensity for commuting, but greater propensity for recreational uses since they would connect to greater regional trail networks such as the Long Path, Schwangunk Ridge, etc. And this map really, I think, demonstrates how the bikeway system not only can serve as an active transportation system, but also as a way to connect the county's open spaces. So that I think, as many of you know, the county's pursuing the development of Camp LaGuardia into a county park. So you have the confluence of the Scudamoke Trail and Heritage Trail at Camp LaGuardia. So you can begin to see that if we're able to, build out this system over time, a significant share of the county's population literally can hop on a bike to go to the park. They can commute from one community to another safely, stress-free, without having to share the roadway with automobiles. So it is a system that we think is very possible to complete. Okay, so now I'm going to talk a little bit about segment 3. So we have within the plan, we have details for each of the segments. And so for the 7.8 mile segment from Unionville to the hamlet of Slate Hill, as I mentioned, the county already owns it. We're in the process of surveying that property. So that is one that, would be early on in the build out of the bikeway system. Segment B is the 5-mile inactive segment of the Middletown, New Jersey Railroad that runs from East Main Street in the city of Middletown, Slate Hill. with the completion of this segment, the county will have created a separated bikeway system spanning an uninterrupted length of over 40 miles. So that distance is measured from Unionville to Middletown to Monroe, and then from Chester up to Cornwall, which is an incredible system when you think about it.
Is it still gonna be managed by the park system, and the parks?
We do talk about,
You got a budget in there?
well, I have budgets for each of, these are very good questions, but we've thought about that. So I think as time goes on, there'll need to be partners. So that the county can't do it all. If you look at the Walden Walk Hill Rail Trail, that is maintained, by the towns that are part of that.
Right.
Heritage Trail is county. Within the draft plan, there are several examples where partnerships have been developed with the county, some not-for-profits, local municipalities. So I would envision that some of these segments, I think once we identify a standard in which to build them, and I think the county will take a leading role in acquiring the rights of ways. Because I think we're uniquely positioned to do that, especially with the relationship with OSI.
I don't want to interrupt your program, but wasn't it federal money that we acquired to buy the Shawangunk Trail?
Scudamounk, yes.
And
Yeah.
that was how much money?
The Scudamounk Trail presently is a $28 million project, but the property acquisition is a little over 2 million, and the county share is 10% of that. So 10% of the 28 million.
I didn't want to interrupt you.
No.
Money.
I think you might have problems obtaining that section because they're having the projects that are going in that abut that railroad upgrade the crossings. So I would think if they were looking to sell it, they would not be requiring that right now.
Yeah, when we were reviewing through the GML reviews, that's one thing that we specifically called out was that, as these warehouse distribution centers are being developed, that we want to make sure they're not infringing on the right of way, because we had a plan for this future rail trail, but I think that's the other advantage of adopting this as an official policy document. I think it would give us additional strength when we respond to developments, because there is a plan. Denise, as you know, it's like if you could connect from Slate Hill to Middletown, it would be a wonderful connection. The grade is perfect. It goes under 84.
Yeah, there's gonna be many challenges. We had that already.
Yes.
Hardly anybody lives in Minnesink. And we had problems there, just trying to
Yes.
survey the property.
Yep.
So we just gotta have a plan and push forward.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, yes. I think if you have a plan, it all starts with a plan. And again, though, I do think it's achievable. All right, so segment 5, Campbell Hall to Walden. It would require an easement with the Middletown, New Jersey Railroad. But there appears to be sufficient width there. And again, that's going to take some time. It's going to take cooperation of the municipalities along the right of way. I see the county, the municipalities involved, and but it is feasible.
Well, that one, Alan, just so you know.
Yeah.
Since I grew up there.
Okay.
From the village of Montgomery to Walden.
Yeah.
It's a high raised one over water bodies with numerous tunnels.
Okay.
So there's gonna be a little work on that one. To
Okay.
get from the factory street where the winery is.
Yeah.
Closer to the village of Walden. It's raised way up in the air.
Okay.
It's fine. It's doable, but money and.
No, that's important to know.
Yeah, because it runs along the Walker River and across. it's high. Because you got numerous streams running into it.
Okay.
Okay, so you got some raised beds.
I was driving, I think it was, we went up to, family and I went up to Cape Cod like 2 weeks ago. And I was driving along actually one of the highway segments. And I noticed at the base of the highway, they had built like 5 mile long bike path.
Yeah, that's what you have to
So there's a
do.
will, there's a way, but it just jumped out at me like, oh. So that's a good point. You know, back in the day when I was a consultant with Walden, of course, we got the grant for the Walden Walk Hill Rail Trail. But I got a second transportation alternative grant to build a pedestrian bridge over 52. And it was funded. So I say this, you know, just from experience, you always run into obstacles. At the time, the village and town assured me they owned the bridge abutments. Turned out they did not own the bridge abutments. So we ended up having to give that grant back. That kind of broke my heart, but I do think if we're able to go from Montgomery to Walden and have that overpass, that would be an incredible connection.
Yeah,
in and of
that
itself.
would be, right. And then from Walden, you still can't get around the prison over there in Shawangunk, though, right? Because that would
Correct.
connect to incredible Ulster County stuff
I believe OSI is currently working on a workaround.
to get around that prison.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. So, you know, there's other partners, as I mentioned, and Harry's question was actually, the county can't do this on its
No.
own. So, you know, we'll need to develop partnerships, but at least this provides a vision for how we might do that. So the Goshen to Campbell Hall segment. This one, you know, that little green strip to the south there, that's right behind the government center here. And then there's, I want to say it's Harness Road, is that little blue segment. I anticipate we'll probably have to go a little bit on 207, which quote unquote is a dedicated bike route, but has no shoulder. So maybe, you know, maybe we can work with DOT to actually come up with a plan for that. And then there's a significant segment, kind of where the segment 6 arrow is pointing, that is undeveloped abandoned rail bed that if were required would, you know, allow for that connection. But then, you know, you would connect the Campbell Hall train station to the village of Goshen, which would be a really important connection. And then we can go to
Where the train was to where the train is now. I mean, it wasn't the village of
yeah,
Goshen.
yeah.
That's another discussion for a different day.
Yeah, that was another, when we were researching this, I forget the name of that rail bed that went from Goshen. It's something in Boston Railroad that ran all the way up to, you know, from Goshen all the way up north.
There's the Graham line and the main line. There was a choice made in the 80s to go with what we have now as opposed to the other one, which went through all the villages. It was a mistake. But, you know,
But we'll develop the bikeway along it and then.
now we have train stations where nobody lives.
Yeah. So, you know, another aspect of the bikeway vision is, again, that there'll be local trails that would also connect to the bikeway system. So you'd have this countywide system built, you know, to a higher standard, probably 16-foot width, split use trail. And at the local level, you'd have these 10-foot wide bike pedestrian paths that would connect to this countywide system. And so one that we're currently exploring is the Greenbelt Parkway, which would be in City, Middletown, and Goshen. And next we can go to the next one. So for each segment, we did a cost estimate. So these are based on 2023 dollars. And in almost every case, the county share is 10%. If we were to pursue a transportation alternatives grant, that's a 20% match. Again, so we do have estimates. If you take all the segments together, it's a very big number. I'll just say that. But actually, the county or the local share is actually under 20 million to build out this system, which would be an incredible system. I think transformative. And I guess we'll end with his quote by Daniel. So I said it's an aspirational plan, make no little plans. I'll just read the sub quote there, which is, they have no magic to stir man's blood and probably themselves will not be realized. Make big plans, aim high and hope and work, remembering that a noble logical diagram once recorded will never die, but long after others are gone, be a living thing asserting itself with ever growing insistency. So
Good
that's
job, yeah, good job.
It was Robert Moses.
Daniel Byrne. Daniel, Robert Moses practice.
Anyway, thank you so much. Really, that's very helpful and informative. I think what you should do is take it on the road. I think you should meet with the town supervisors and mayors at one of their monthly meetings. And make that presentation. So, right, you can have the baby for a couple more months. So. Hold on. But thank you.
Yeah, I did have one comment on.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so it's Marianne said, looking forward to when the bikeway vision includes the city of Newburgh along the waterfront rail line. We have an active bike riding community that wants so much to have bike lanes within our city and trails that connect us to neighboring Orange County communities. Yes, railway track.
There's more than one advocate for the city of Newburgh.
Yeah.
Good, good.
And we're actually working on a segment in the city of Newburgh. So that's being funded separately through the TRIS grant. So we'll actually be out in the field tomorrow.
Let's open up for any questions for Alan on this.
Well, I just may add, it's very impressive, Alan, and I hope the county will support you, Harry, and the county exec and legislators. Push it forward to get it approved and as a permanent plan to look forward to and develop. From our end, the problem is getting the bike from inner city to get to that trail area.
Yeah.
So what you have to do is to get it safely. And the mayor and I were working on that and to try to get that developed at some point, but we got our hands full. So I don't know if the county will ever have, as part of Alan's office, to have a consultant to pursue this of developing some local routes for the bikes, to safely navigate from certain neighborhoods to make it up to the trail. So you build a trail right now, and it's beautiful and nice and safe and all that stuff, but you have to drive your bikes. You have to drive your car, put the bike in the back of your car, drive it over, park it someplace, and then get on the bike and go.
Right.
Rather than having a safe routes to get from your home or from your neighborhood, whatever it's, and have it everywhere. So I don't know if the county would ever have a vision, or not a vision, consultant to pursue that, rather leaving it in the hands of, say, city of Middletown, myself and the mayor as an example.
I think part of that's covered with our complete streets policies. Or the cooperative community. We can talk about that.
I'll let Lauren speak to it.
We have done a call in the past of local project plans within the UPWP. So there is a task currently, the cooperative coordinating community task. Currently, we're trying to work, I guess, internally on figuring out how to kind of help staff that and do more local plans.
Yeah.
So that still needs to be figured out.
Yeah.
But yes, it's definitely an opportunity through the UPWP that.
Yes.
That would be nice. Because that's.
Yeah, and it's an excellent point. Safety is a critical feature of this. And I think if you make it stress-free and safe environment for bicyclists, you're going to encourage more people to utilize.
That's the key. That's the key. I mean, I can see how my wife struggles to make it from my house to the trail using the bike.
Yeah.
And many
Yeah.
times I tell her, please use the car, just put it in the car and then go. And because it's quite a task to make it to the trail, and she loves it and she does it all the time, but it's just the idea. So
Yeah.
we've got to study it to designate some routes for safe routes for these bikes
Yeah.
to make it to the trail.
To your bigger question though, this is a visionary plan.
Yep.
This is the beginning. This is just like, where do you want to go?
Absolutely.
And now we'll find people to help us along the way to get there. No, maybe
Part
then
of
second.
the issue is we have, the state has designated highways with bikes, but they don't put shoulders on them,
Exactly.
right? So that would help, Jacob, to get people safely to these trails. So I don't know how we advocate more for that, you know?
You can't ride those state roads.
But they're all designated bikes.
It's
They're bike
dangerous.
routes.
Dangerous.
It's crazy.
Yeah, Mike is right, County Route 78 and
Right.
up and walk by.
All they gotta do is put a shoulder on
Yeah,
it.
Right.
you just put a sign, that bike.
Yeah, with no shoulder.
Yeah, who the heck's gonna,
They,
become a speed bump.
Yeah.
I do know the state is working on their they're going to update their active transportation plan, so that is in the work at the state level. So hopefully we'll hear more about how they're gonna address that. There was one more comment online.
Okay.
Jay Sheffield said, has there been any discussion with NINTIC, New York Metropolitan Transportation Committee, Council, about the potential connections around Bear Mountain with their study of the Palisades Interstate Parkway?
There have not.
What parkway? It's gone.
Not yet, but I appreciate you bringing that to our attention. We'll certainly reach out.
Yeah.
Okay, are there any other questions here or comments?
Before you go to staff reports, can I ask you a question? So Bridge New York grants came out, right? And I would just wonder at the next planning meeting, we could have a sort of a synopsis of that process. Rankings, how, you know, I mean, there were 5 projects in Orange County, 3 went to the county. Good, I guess, but I'd like to understand the process and, you know, how you might be more competitive going forward. So if we could, it doesn't have to be long, but maybe a brief discussion of that.
Yeah, we could definitely add that. Yeah.
And Travis Ewell might be helpful in that area as well.
I'm assuming projects that were awarded were fully designed, which is easy for the county to do, right? Because they have staff doing it constantly. It's a little harder for municipalities, right? But if that's the key criteria to be competitive in Bridge New York, to know that, right?
Right. Well, I know a big part of it was the ensuring that you had the right of way with, you know, certainty that you had the necessary right of way, not only to place the bridge, but to work around it. But clearly the design, how far along the engineering design was, you know, but it's better if I have DOT speak to that. I was involved in part of the review process, as was Ryan McGuire from DPW. We were explicitly excluded from rating or ranking the county projects.
Which is not really what they said in the beginning. They said it was going to be a local focused analysis, right? There was members of county team, you mentioned that.
Yeah.
And then they exclude you from the decision process.
You know, we graciously.
Doesn't seem quite as fair as it was presented. But it'd be nice to understand the process.
Yeah, I'll reach out to
the winners, criteria for that basis. It would help, I think, other municipalities in Orange County
Sure, you got to look at
decide
that.
whether they want to expend energy in pursuing
Yeah,
those,
yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll set that up.
Thank you.
Is there anybody online that would like to ask a question regarding the bikeway vision presentation? Now we'll move on to the next item, which is Alan, Village of Curious Joel, request for 10 new fixed buses.
Okay, we did receive a letter, and requesting, for 10, additional buses. Just wanna, I'm gonna back up a little bit. The village currently operates a fixed route transit service of 7 buses, but recently added an additional 4 fixed routes, running on 15-minute intervals. So the increase in the transit network services, frequency, ridership, duration of routes, et cetera, has led to an unanticipated mileage accumulation on vehicles. Additionally, these vehicles are facing mechanical issues, major repairs, our transit asset management plan calls for a useful life of 12 years for these buses. With respect to, I just want, Rob had provided me with some notes. He was not able to be here today. He notes that Curious currently has, well, he says here 8 fixed route buses, so clearly there's significant increase in the county to the county-owned fleet. They lease buses on their own. We don't currently know how many. There's a misunderstanding in the letter submitted. The replacement cycle for this type of bus is 12 years, not 14, which is why there's a tip amendment that we referenced above, so that the grant could be written for the replacement of the 2013 buses. That said, there's been a significant growth in ridership, which warrants a sizable expansion of the fleet. And there's 5307 funding that can be used for this request. So we are, currently exploring opportunities to address their needs.
So what is that, if I may? So they've done their own study and they asked for additional buses, so the city of Middletown can go do our own study, ask for additional routes. I thought the county is doing that.
Well, the village of Curious Joel actually provides their own transit services.
Okay.
So Middletown Transit Service is contracted by the county,
Right.
and we provide a service. So it's a little bit different.
Okay.
There. So.
I would think that the county should look into the entire bus situation, Warwick, Montgomery, and everybody, and take that into account with this KJ request, which is, they're already just saw 5 here, another 10, so we make sure that the whole county is being addressed, not only just KJ.
We do look at it, Charlie.
The age of buses in the other communities.
Yeah. We have an asset management plan, so that dictates the replacement schedule.
Okay.
And then as communities are growing and needs grow, we are adding buses. So like with the Middletown network redesign, we've added routes to that system. And as a result of that, we need some additional buses. So we've already begun to, in our capital plan, to
Look at the age of Middletown, look at Newburgh, look at
Yes.
all of them, I see KJ's asking, but the entire county should be looked at.
The other thing I would add, if you recall, over the last several months, we got requests from Ulster County, Dutchess County
Yeah.
to use some of the unallocated 5307 funding for their expansion of their bus services. OCTC has never asked for a share of that, but as part of this request and other needs in the county, we're going to make.
Ask for those,
Yes,
because they did, Dutchess asked, right?
both Dutchess and.
Oh,
Ulster.
Right,
Yeah, so
and how much money is available through that program?
Alan, can you clarify? So we voted, or will vote on the 530 foot buses, but then there's also the 13 buses between Middletown, Newburgh, and KJ.
Yeah.
Is this in the addition to that number?
Yes, so
It is.
yeah, based on the conversations with Rob, so this was already what was scheduled.
Right.
So they need to understand and go back and kind of look at how the Village of Curious Joel requests kind of align with that. So those, I know that some of the buses that they are asking for may be replaced, but that's something that Rob and Martha and the team and Alan are kind of looking at.
Yeah.
Do we know how much money is available through the 3-county fund? When was the last time we drew down any money at all from that?
Oh, I don't believe we ever have.
We get our allocations, so we get money directly OCTC, and then there's always like an unallocated pot that they save just for capital needs, operating
Do
needs.
you know what the value of that pot is?
We had just voted on it
Yeah, last time.
recently, so I think it's 8 million
I
right
think
now
we have
is
a
left
balance of 8
over.
million, yeah.
And what will we need to honor the request of First Well?
So, yeah,
You know, is there a number?
Here. Buses.
I don't know how that number right in front of me, but
Is somebody doing an overall evaluation of who's requesting what? I mean, here's KJ, they have their own entity and they are requesting for their own added routes, added buses. How does that compare with the rest of the county, like we just spoke about, like say Middletown? You know, again, percentage, population, lane miles,
No.
however you,
We have an asset management plan.
no, that's for replacing the buses.
Correct.
How about adding routes in here?
Um,
And extending the number of hours? I mean, is there a comparison to make sure that everybody is even
Yes.
in obtaining their whatever allocation from this program?
Well, our transportation
So
system.
this is Gedalia. I'm on the phone, and I think that before we go into the details, I didn't realize that Rob is not going to be at the meeting today. If I would have asked him to distribute the letter and the study to everybody there at the meeting that we presented to the county. In a nutshell, Curious Joel is operating a municipal transit system since the 1980s. Up to like 3 years ago, and this is all spelled out in the submission we made, up to 3 years ago, the municipal transit served about 120 to 130,000 passengers per year. That number has jumped up to over 600,000 passengers per year. 600,000 passengers. We now have, in light of the jump, we had about 6 large buses from Orange County. There was no way that 6 buses could handle that amount of passengers. The village jumped in on our own and got between local donations and arrangements that we've made with other entities and transit providers, we now have added 9 additional buses to the fleet that is operating on a daily basis. But those 9 buses are not permanently given to Curious Joel, and the 9 buses is not sufficient. So what we're facing on a regular basis is arriving to stops with completely jam-packed buses and turning people away, telling people, sorry, there is no room to come on the bus. So we're not here talking about adding stops. The reason why we're adding the 50 minutes interval is because the 30 minutes interval just doesn't have enough capacity and has to turn people down. So we had a 30-minute interval and we had to have 2 buses riding together in order to accommodate the passengers. But instead of having 2 buses riding together and picking up everybody, we're splitting it up to 50 minutes interval just to be able to handle and accommodate people standing at the bus stops. The comprehensive submission to Orange County, multi-pages with a lot of data from the Census Bureau, a lot of data from the field, from the trenches, and the buses that we're adding is only to accommodate the existing current riders that are riding the village buses. This is the largest by far municipal program that any municipality in Orange County provides. Curious Joel has a population of the last census over 33,000 people. Of that, many children and many women that ultimately choose not to drive. So we have a pedestrian community that has availed themselves to the mass transit system, which is, by the way, also a substantial addition to the funding that the county gets, because the county's funding source is also based on how much riders are using the system. So the Curtis Joel's numbers are actually beneficial to all of Orange County because the county is getting a lot more funding due to the fact that Curtis Joel serves over 600,000 passengers per year. In addition, because of the new dynamics, Curtis Joel is now a separate federal zone for funding. Orange County is not linked anymore to Newburgh, Poughkeepsie, but there is a separate Curtis Joel zone designated by the federal DOT, by federal census. All of that is helping all of Orange County get more transit funding to all of Orange County for the county to distribute. So the additional buses is not adding additional routes. The additional buses is to accommodate the current passengers that are availing themselves to the Curtis Joel Municipal Transit System. It's all outlined in the letter that we submitted to the county, and we're here to answer questions to people that read the letter and the petition that we submitted and people that didn't.
Okay, thank you, Gedalia. Any comments, questions?
Well, I haven't seen the letter, so I don't know
Right,
what.
we can't comment.
Oh, okay. Will, you didn't get that?
We'll share the letter. Yeah, Gedalia, we clearly recognize, the growth and the need there. And, we're working to address those needs. To answer the other members.
And let me be very clear. I'm in no way discounting or minimizing other transit providers and other transit needs within Orange County. And I would stand up on the side of Middletown or others that want to add additional services, additional transit. We heard an hour or close to an hour about bike service. But when you look at the overall, there are more passengers on municipal mass transit programs that are on bikes. So without saying anything bad about bikes, of course, but also encouraging to at least give equal to transit all over the county. And that would also respond to Middletown's concern. How would people get to those bike lanes? By mass transit. If you have enough mass transit getting you to the bike lanes, and if you have, like New York City has, the city bikes right there at the trail, you could have somebody hop on a mass transit, get his bike right at the trail, go to his destination and park it right there. And that would interconnect mass transit and bike users in a significant way.
Absolutely.
Absolutely agree, Gedalia, and we appreciate your support for Middletown as well. But in Middletown, I mean, the buses, they stop running at 5 o'clock.
We're changing.
I know, I understand that.
Yes.
We have a tremendous deficit in our program, and we have, I don't even know how it's run.
Well, that's why we
But
need
it's-
the legislature to get behind the county transit system, right, Harry?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, I mean.
But Jack, if Middletown wants to transition to be a municipal transit provider instead of dealing with the county, now I'm not in any way implying that the county isn't doing the greatest job they can, but municipalities could operate their own transit system as Curtis Joel does.
Understood.
Yep.
There's no way that a local government knows its residents and its needs on a lot more intimate way than the county does. But the county is a tremendous partner in mass transit, and I commend them for that in private and
Okay, we lost you.
operate our own mass transit system, and the county's standing at our side whenever necessary, whenever needed. And if Middletown chooses to do the same, we would support you in any way you need.
We appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, we wanted to bring your letter to the awareness of the rest of the council. We'll make sure copies are given out to everyone else, and it'll be on the agenda in the future.
Okay.
Thank you, Gedalia.
And now let me just add one point. Funding for transit is in no way competing with funding for other projects outside of transit. in the county. These are separate transit funds that we're dealing with. And for those municipalities that don't have municipal transit, this is a non-issue for them. But of course, everybody has a say in general public policy. But I want to make sure that the buses are not competing with anybody's road or bridges or repaving work or any other work.
That's true.
Yeah.
And we do have to deal with Ulster County and Dutchess County for these funds.
We're gonna get our share.
Okay. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But it is competing with the existing Middletown, Newburgh, and
I
that.
don't see it as, it's not really competing. We have, as the ridership grows, our $5,307, we get state operating assistance.
Right.
So we get additional funding that's coming in. So each of the local services, we're unique, for better or worse, in that we have 16 different service providers for the bus service.
Right.
Right, so some of it's dial a bus through town, some of it we contract, like with Middletown, we contract with Coach USA to provide that service. Over in Newburgh, we contract with Gallagher. So, you know, it's somewhat of a disjointed system, but
But has there been a tracking? So Gedalia basically says from 120 to 130, a five-fold increase. Has there been any tracking for Middletown increase or Newburgh increase or the other communities? Is there any tracking of their ridership level increases or decreases?
Yeah, there are. And we just completed, which was a consultant-led study, the Middletown network system redesign. So that was like a year-long study, and we're currently in the middle of the Newburgh area transit system redesign. So.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, but a very important question Charlie's asking about the number of ridership. But if the program is inefficient,
Right.
how could you compare apples with oranges? I mean, KJ, I admire them. They are committed to the public
They have
transportation
an
in the air.
incredibly efficient
And
system.
they really use it and they take advantage of it, and I admire them. I wish Middletown would be that way, but however, Middletown doesn't have the efficient bus system that it needs in order to draw people out. You know,
Well,
5
we're
o'clock, when you close the door at 5 o'clock, with all the,
Isn't that what this study?
yeah, I understand that, but Charlie's question was, are we tracking? And the answer is yes, they are tracking the ridership.
Yeah,
But if
yeah.
the program is inefficient, the ridership numbers are meaningless.
Correct.
We're hoping with the redesign that those ridership numbers from Middletown, Wallkill will increase. Because we're expanding the hours of service, and we're adding additional weekend hours. We're expanding some of the routes to better connect
Yes.
people from the city to the services that are within the town. Because that original network in Middletown was originally designed when downtown Middletown was the center of the community, and the Galleria and everything hadn't been constructed. So things have changed.
Absolutely.
So we needed the system.
No, absolutely, no question about it. When is that gonna be implemented, by the way? One more question and then I'll shut up, Harry. When is that gonna be implemented, by the way? The study is done and took a year
We're
to finish.
currently working on that. So our goal is 2024 to go out to bid for that new service.
Okay.
Yes.
So there's a comment.
So let me say this. If the request for buses by Curious Joel would have the domino effect of improving Middletown system as we're shining the spotlight on transit, that would be the icing on my cake.
Absolutely good. Absolutely good, Ali. I agree.
Ever the diplomat.
John Ravella had a question on the chat. Was the increase in ridership at Curious Joel due to Curious Joel providing another 9 buses on their own?
That is definitely the system, part of the help, but there was another a few factors. First of all, there is the natural growth in the community, but also there used to be one main street which was located on Forest Road. Now there's an entire new business district on Bakertown Road, and people want to go to both business districts. And we also shifted, the 9 buses that were added don't leave Courage Joel. They're all within Courage Joel. So the bus transit that we had before, which is still continuing, was to Walmart and to Woodbury Commons and to places in Blooming Grove. We continued to use that, but the 9 buses don't leave the village boundaries. They're all connected Courage Joel from one area to another area. So it's a combination of things. Of course, the cultural factor was always there. Women and children were always a high number of passengers, but the dramatic change is when we added what we call the shuttle services, which is within the community, connecting the community internally.
Great, thank you. Okay, I think maybe we can ask Rob Parrington to prepare some kind of report at one of our
Sure.
next meetings, whether next meeting or the next planning committee meeting.
Yes.
You convey that?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. All right, going down to number 7, Orange County TC staff reports. Laura, is there anything?
Yeah, we're gonna, just a quick update. As the council members know, we're in the process of updating our long-range transportation plan. The new plan will be the LRTP 2050. We have a new project website, which is www.octclrtp2050.org. And we're currently working on gathering data on existing conditions and reviewing state regional transportation plans. Very important note for everyone, we have an LRTP workshop number 1 tomorrow, which is July 12th from 3:30 to 7 p.m. That will be at the Kaplan Hall at SUNY Orange in Newburgh. We'll have poster stations set up around the room. So you're welcome to drop in at any time and go to your own space. There'll also be accommodations if persons come and have a child. There'll be some activities set up to assist with that. Just want to back up quickly. Our LRTP Advisory Committee held their kickoff meeting. That was on June 23rd, 2023. We'll continue to meet to guide the development of the LRTP. And we're proposing to have 3 public workshops. So tomorrow night's workshop at Kaplan Hall will be the first of the 3 workshops. And at the first advisory committee meeting, Lauren, myself, Stacy were present. We also had committee members from MTA, New York State Thruway Authority, Port Authority of New York, New Jersey, New York State DOT, US DOT, FHWA, FTA, and also representatives from the 3 sub areas of Town of Newburgh, Town of Warwick, and City of Middletown. The consultants on that project are Transpo Group and Public Works Partners. I think I covered everything.
Okay.
Save the date.
Yeah. So the next thing, save the date, August 8th, 2023. We are tentatively looking at August 8th for our next Orange County Transportation Council meeting. It'll likely be a back-to-back planning and policy board meeting. In-person quorum is required, so please make a note of that. And the question, if we're going to do this as a back-to-back meeting, is there a preference from the members as opposed from a 10 a.m. meeting or a 1 p.m. meeting?
1 p.m. I prefer. If it's
on
okay.
vacation.
Yeah. Okay.
What was the date again?
It was August 8th. I guess, can we do a
Paul?
Dutiful? Yes.
Yeah. We'll send out a doodle poll, so please let us know.
In the afternoon, it's fine for me.
Okay.
I just have meetings in the morning usually.
Yeah. Okay.
Tuesdays.
Like Greeks was AM. I saw that flash on.
Oh, okay.
I do a poll.
With respect to the bikeway vision, we will get that out to the members.
Yes, and the letter from KJ also.
Okay.
All right. Any other reports from any of our members? Now let's for a motion to adjourn. One, two, all in favor?
All right.
Thank you. Thank you very much for
Thank
coming.
you.